There was a second shooter. Blood in the bathroom.
No, I assume that there was shooter dead on the roof, and then they were clearing the building, and they found blood in the bathroom, and they said second suspect at large or something like that, or whatever. I don't know.
Second shooter.
Yeah, because when we were first ducking behind the, when they moved us all from the back of the AGR building, and Homeland Security and the other guy with the long gun moved us over to the township police car to take cover there. The door was open, and we could hear the radio communications, and they said, shooter dead on the roof, and then they said, we breached the building, there's blood in the bathroom, second shooter on the loose. So, because, like, if the guy climbed the building and shot from there, like, how was there blood found inside of a bathroom inside that building?
What I want to know is
So
who was engaging
right?
a rifle with a flashlight at that window that was pointed in the direction of the crowd and Trump.
You got moved to another building by who?
Moved to another area by Homeland Security. I got the cuffs taken from behind me to the front by Homeland Security.
Okay.
And then when we got moved over to Township police were like, Dave? And I'm like, yeah, please take these cuffs off me. And they took the cuffs off me. And then they moved us across the street. And then they were like, this is even a horrible spot over here. If the dude wants to shoot out the windows, get in the trunk of our car over here, and we'll drive you to the farm show.
Get in the trunk of the car? What?
So what was it that you overheard on the radio?
Goodness.
That there was shooter dead on the roof, and then they were clearing the building, and they found blood in the bathroom, and they said second suspect at large or something like that, or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, so this is an interview with the FBI by this YouTuber. I shared his video. He has some footage that I showed when you slowed it down. There was two things that was actually seen. I think his video is probably the best on all of I've seen on the internet. One of them looked like possible drone coming from the direction of the water tower, like a minute or so before the shooting started. While the shots were being fired, one of those windows, the ones that was closest to those pipe-looking things, had a rifle, somebody there with a rifle, and what appeared to be like the flashlight attachment. When you slow it down, I showed clearly in that video that somebody was engaging a rifle, whether or not they were shooting from the window, I don't know, but they were definitely engaging that rifle, at least in capacity. So then, like hours later after I distributed that video in different places online, there was this news release that showed a picture of a rifle set up, and it had flashlight scope on it. And so the title of the video was Secret Service or Police, Who's to Blame? It was from News Nation. And so that picture, it showed like somebody took a picture of the rifle that was positioned at that window, and it was really weird because the local police don't have any authority to be trying to shoot into that area where Trump is or the crowd is. That's not their perimeter. Their perimeter is to cover any threats coming from inside their perimeter to take them out in that area. There's people, that set up near Trump. They're especially trained Secret Service agents, and they alone handle any threats within that vicinity. So it was very bizarre for anybody to be pointing a gun, and it was very closely lined up to where the shooter on top was. And it was just bizarre, but there was definitely activity inside that building. There was a couple windows where blinds were, moving around and stuff, and so I shared that. So this is what Dave revealed today. I mean, there was one, I don't know who it was, but in this audio he complains about somebody was very abusive to Dave. They took his hat off. Now, it didn't say what kind of hat he had, but I'm assuming he was wearing a MAGA hat because he was, he's a Trump supporter. Took his hat off. This is local law enforcement doing this. One of the law enforcement did this. Took his hat off and stomped on it on the ground. Made this man cry, and then started berating him and calling him names like you P and, just little B and stuff like that. Why are you crying? Why are they abusing this man? Right? And so they literally, to take his hat off and stomp on it, that tells you right there, these people hate Republicans. Okay? This DA who lied and said that these officers did nothing wrong in the amount of time they knew that there was a shooter on the roof. And here we hear this guy, I think he's legit. I don't think he's making any of this up. His videos reveal a lot. And it showed there was some object that flew across, coming from the direction of the water tower. And then there's that flashlight, that rifle engaging in that window. And there's no authority for them to have a window, to have a sniper facing the crowd. So then what else he says in here is he talks about there was a guy. I thought originally that the owner was out there and he was ranting because he wanted these people off his property, which he's the owner of the property, has that right, to kick people off the property if you don't want them there lined up at the fence, especially if he's not a Republican and you don't want these Trump supporters. I don't know what his political status was, but to come to find out, it doesn't appear that the guy who was trying to chase these people off was the owner. Because somebody said, no, I've been here, forever, and that guy's not the owner. So then the police comes over and talks to the guy who's out there ranting and raging. This guy said that he saw him come back, and he appeared to have put a gun in his pants or something, so he warned him. And here comes this, the police talk to this guy. So why would they not have made all those people leave? If that was the owner of the property, he has a right to kick him off his property if he doesn't want him there. He was somebody, riding a horse across the property. If they're not allowed to be there, but if he's not the owner and he's pretending to be the owner, that's pretty suspicious. But when I hear this Dave talking about they took his hat off and stomped on it, that's pure hate coming from these locals, guys. And then now they're talking about a second shooter. There was blood in the bathroom. This is something he heard on the radio. This is what he's telling the FBI agent. You haven't heard anything about this in the news. And most certainly not in that hearing. You have heard that there's suspicion that there's a second shooter. Well, there's definitely something going on in that window. And there's people lined up to try to just quash any idea of a second shooter. But this guy's talking to an FBI agent, okay? And he's telling him what he's hearing on the radio. Because they had him detained. They had detained a bunch of people just to talk to him quickly. And that's right. I think they shouldn't be disrespectful to him, but just to make sure that there was no connection to the guy, it's a pretty serious event that happened. So they're just detaining and questioning people. And so the way they treated this guy, that was just uncalled for. To take his hat off and stomp on it and then call him names, that's abusive. And so this guy talking to the FBI, he's telling him what was on the radio. So he's got him in some room. They've got him, still there detaining and stuff. So Homeland Security, and he's hearing the radio communications. There was a second shooter, guys. Right? So at one point they moved this guy. They told him to take cover. Like one of the guys that was one of the law enforcement tells him to get the blank out of there. And I heard that in the video. So he did. And he's like, no, it's national news. He felt like that, he had information. So then one of the I think it was a state trooper, comes over and tells him, he basically puts him in detainment and tells him he can't leave. So he doesn't want anybody leaving, which is appropriate. So he's like, okay, no problem. He's just trying to he was being as nice as possible, this guy. He's like calling him brother. He's like, look, I got people, I'm on your side, no problem. I got your back. It's no problem. He's just like being as cool as possible. And so, then this, they have a move behind this vehicle. I'm just like, really and truly, they shouldn't make them stand out in the open when you don't know if there's just one shooter or not. So this is when the conversation comes up that there is a second shooter. And then he heard it on the radio. So I'm going to play this for you.
Because that's what had us freaked out, because that's what the cops are telling us, like, hey, the second shooter's still around here, so, like, let's move from this point over to this point where it's safer. And then they're like, well, it's not safe over here, let's take you over here.
And they were all
see any
carrying weapons like they were looking for the second shooter, too, if you watched them afterwards. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video so you can
No,
see
I
the whole
assumed the
thing.
red truck guy was, because what I